Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on Superman and Lois. So tomorrow from when this video comes out, it's the big day. The premiere of Superman and Lois, the new edition, or the newest addition to the Arrowverse and just the DC multiverse as a whole, because without spoiling stuff, that's going to be a thing, so keep your eyes out for that. But we knew this series was coming for a long time. I think it was initially announced back in, I think when Crisis was about to air, like Crisis on Infinite Earths, or it like just started filming, one of the two. But due to COVID and everything like that, like the year we've had, we just had to wait a bit longer than expected to see it. But it's almost here, and it looks like it's going to be 110% worth the wait. So there was an interview done with Entertainment Weekly with some of the stars and the showrunner, that being Todd Helbing, who used to be the showrunner for The Flash before Eric Wallace took over. But in this interview, they gave us some insight into what to expect from the show, as well as reveal some new information on villains and the show's larger place in the Arrowverse, including changes from what we've seen in the past, as well as returning characters that we've seen before. But of course, let me know in the comments section down below, what are you looking forward to in Superman and Lois from, I guess, a day from now, if you're watching when the video is relatively new. I'm very curious to hear what you guys, are expecting from the show. Are you excited? Are you in the middle? Let me know your various thoughts and predictions and stuff. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video and you're excited for Superman and Lois, why not drop a like? It takes 2 seconds. Now, just to get through like the best parts of the interview, I am just going to read out some of the quotes that they gave and just get my thoughts on them, as well as any added explanations when needed with some of what is said, as they are references to the comics. But I will leave the whole interview linked in the description down below if you are curious or just need something to read. The core of the show is rooted in this family and their struggles. The way showrunner Todd Helbing was talking about it was, you want it to be kind of grittier, you want it to feel grounded, and you want to really believe that what they're going through, other people can actually go through too. There's no version where Lois and Clark are married and they have two teenage boys. We're going to explore stories that haven't been told in a way that they haven't been told before. Seeing Superman struggle as a dad brings in a whole other element. To see somebody who in one part of his life feels supremely confident, but in the other areas is still trying to figure out, I thought that was a really appealing way of approaching a character that had been done several times before. It's really an opportunity to feel uncomfortable. It finds ways that he's having to work through his discomfort, that being parenting, and things like that is always a fun challenge. Now, as I said before, Todd Helbing is the showrunner for Superman and Lois, and there's always been this discussion about how he got attached, and he actually went into detail around that. I actually was working on a couple of other shows, and I swore that I would take a break from superhero stuff because, as I said, he was on The Flash just before it. But that spring, Greg Berlanti, on the verge of securing the rights to Superman, phoned and asked if I'd be interested in taking the project on. I was flattered that the prolific producer thought of me for the job, but was initially at a loss for what to do with Superman that would be new and fresh. Berlanti was like, well, let's just do a family show. He's like, Clark and Lois are married, I don't know anything else, so let's start there. Now, the big thing with Todd Helbing and like what we've seen before is that I think he's better suited for the grounded nature of Superman and Lois rather than like the sci-fi nature of the Flash. As has been said in like the bit of the video that we've done, the show's more grounded than what you've seen before, whether it is the Arrowverse or just Superman in general. Because he handled like the grounded parts of the Flash when he was on there really well. Like an example would be Ralph Dibny's story. I think that's probably his highlight in regards to how he's handled the Flash. It's a shame what's happened with Ralph, but when he handled Ralph, first introduced him and stuff, he handled him really well because it was like more of a grounded story. But he did struggle with the more sci-fi or over-the-top superhero elements on the show, such as like Nora and what went on there, like time travel and stuff. He struggled with that. So seeing that this show is more grounded than anything he's done before, at least in the superhero realm, I'm excited to see what he does with that, and I think he might nail it. Now, one interesting thing going into the show is that, as we know, there's 2 twin boys. Now, the creators initially considered giving Clark and Lois a girl and a boy, but ultimately opted for 2 sons instead because Todd Helbing himself is raising 2 wildly different boys, so he thought he'd use that as like some sort of inspiration. Now, if they did do a boy and a girl, it most likely would have been Jonathan, who is going to be on the show, obviously, who's the son from the comics, and maybe Lara Kent, who is a thing from the comics in a way. So it's, Clark and Lois's daughter, or Superman's daughter, and it's she's in the comics in a way, if you know what I mean. I'm not going to spoil if you haven't read that stuff in the comics, but she's there in a way. Now, in Superman and Lois, Smallville has fallen on hard times, which we sort of get a hint at in the trailers, and it's a detail that was actually inspired by Todd Helbing's own hometown facing economic hardships during the Great Recession, and he actually spoke on that a bit. Whenever I would go back, I would slowly see this town dry up. There's so many small towns in America where this is happening, and just felt like a current way to reflect on just kind of what's happening in our country right now. There's a line that Kyle Cushing, the husband of Clark's childhood friend Lana Lang, says where he's like, it used to be that people would leave, go get educated and bring their skills back to the town and helped raise them, and that's not happening anymore. And I think that's true. Like, I'm a perfect example of that. So Todd Helbing left, went to Hollywood, writing, everything like that. Now, it will be interesting to see how relatable this is to a good part of the American population, whether it is you personally, whether you are from one of these towns or live in one of these towns, or you fit that mold, whether you left and came back, or you just left and never came back in a permanent residency. And then when you've gone to visit family or just driven past, you see that they're just completely different. Or it could just be family members, maybe you have an uncle that lives in one of these towns that's slowly, slowly like not tearing itself down, but just drying up, as Todd Helbing does say there. So it could relate to a good amount of people. Now, Superman and Lois is visually distinctive, moving away from the bright aesthetic of the likes of like The Flash and Supergirl and even, just a lot of the Arrowverse shows. And it's taking cues from, this is what they actually say, they're taking cues from like Interstellar, Days of Heaven, Man of Steel, and Friday Night Lights. Friday Night Lights seems to be like the big one that they're going for. Now, Todd Helbing, along with the pilot's director and cinematographer, opted for an earthy, muted palette reflecting the show's grounded tone and the poor state of its Midwestern town, and they actually also convinced the CW to let them shoot in a widescreen aspect ratio with an anamorphic lens, which are tools that are usually reserved for feature films. So there's been this big thing when the trailers have been there, and people have been going, this looks like a movie, and that's because, well, they shot it to sort of look like a movie. But this is actually what the director for the pilot actually said. This is Superman. We needed a canvas that has great scope and scale, which is why we shot it with anamorphic lenses. Something we talked about is that there needed to be a bit of a gear change in the superhero landscape. I think largely because look at where television is. You have television as superb as The Crown, Mindhunter, and Escape at Dannemora. The list goes on and on and on, just superb feature level filmmaking in television. It's just a different world than season 1 of The Flash or season 1 of Arrow. Which is a big point, but I've been saying pretty much as soon as I started covering this show that this show was going to look different. Like, there was budget going into it and just the way that they were going to handle it. It was going to look different. So it was on more, like, it's above Stargirl, but it was like sort of on that Stargirl level. That's what I thought it was going to be, but it's even sort of like exceeded my expectations in regards to that, in regards to how it looks. And they said that it continues all the way through season 1 in regards to that. So it's not just an episode 1 or 2 thing. Apparently it continues all the way through the season. Now, in regards to the rest of the Arrowverse, there was a moment during development when Todd Helbing wondered if he was, pushing Superman and Lois, too far away from the franchise of the Arrowverse or the CWverse, if you want to, step into that dangerous territory. And he mainly references Supergirl, which is ending later this year and has already mined a lot from the Superman mythos. Like, they've done a lot in their 6 going on 7 seasons. But this is what he actually had to say about that. Obviously, working in this universe for as long as I did, I wanted to feel like we were a part of the whole, but we were making these choices that were very different than a lot of the other shows. After I talked to the Supergirl showrunners of Robert Rovner and Jessica Queller, they sort of released me from my fears. They were like, look, Todd, you're more worried about this than you should be because Supergirl has existed for 6 seasons and Superman is off doing his own thing. He's on his own adventures. It doesn't worry us that they can simultaneously exist at all. And that was quite a sigh of relief. Now, there's already been some sort of change that we can tell from the trailers and stuff from Supergirl, such as like heat vision. It's now red instead of blue. Superman and Supergirl had blue even in the post-crisis timeline when they'll, after the Paragons fix everything, they still have blue heat vision. Now, Superman has red. And there is some like character recast with like General Lane and whatever his name is, Morgan Edge. There we go. I thought I was going to forget it, Morgan Edge. And maybe even the Fortress of Solitude, which is in episode 2, I'm pretty sure. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like on the show, whether it looks completely different from Supergirl's. We'll have to wait and see. Now, in regards to references to the larger Arrowverse as a whole, after the selective press saw the first 2 episodes, Todd Helbing actually said this. There's a nod that I don't think anybody has picked up yet in episode 2. As the season progresses, you're going to hear a little more about it. We have John Diggle, played by David Ramsey, coming over, so it's certainly not like we're ignoring anything. We're just not playing it the same way as it's been played on the other shows. So yeah, keep your eyes out in episode 2, and just so don't expect like the Flash just to be, randomly showing up every episode, or they're going to be referencing Oliver Queen or something every 2 episodes or something. I guess they're just going to use it when it's needed, and I guess because they're in Smallville all the time, I don't know how necessary that would be. But finally, in regards to the structure of the show as well as the villains on the show, this is what Todd Helbing had to say. We wanted to have a villain for Superman and a villain for Lois, and then find a way for those two to speak to each other and ultimately merge in a way that's entertaining and satisfactory and speaks to the mythology of Superman. Coming into Superman and Lois, I hope viewers shift what you're expecting to see on a week-to-week basis. In the same way that every Friday Night Lights episode didn't culminate in a football game, the same can be said of Superman and Lois in terms of the comic book thrills. Sometimes a Superman story is a true Superman story and it's just him being kick-ass and influences the story in a way that you might not expect, which is episode 3. Sometimes it's a new villain, but it speaks to the larger picture of the season. Sometimes it has to do with the mythology of the season. We didn't want to do Freak of the Week like Smallville, we didn't necessarily want to do one villain, and we didn't necessarily want to do what the Flash showrunner Eric Wallace is doing, where he has a graphic novel approach. We kind of wanted to do our own thing, but the true north was really, how is the family reacting to what is going on around them, and what's the true meaning of that? So when he describes it like that, it sort of makes you think of Stargirl. Like Stargirl really formatted its season like that. Like it didn't have a big battle at the end of every episode. It sort of organically built up to any sort of big battle they were going to do, or any sort of conflict, or they might happen in the fight might happen in the first 10 minutes and the rest of the episode is something else. So that's what it almost seems like they're doing with Superman and Lois. That's sort of, if you want like an example of how the episodes might play out, think maybe Stargirl. But yeah, when he was talking about the villains, Todd Helbing also revealed that Kilgrave will be a villain at some point in Superman and Lois' first season. And no, this isn't the Purple Man from Jessica Jones. Kilgrave, or Professor Thaddeus Kilgrave, is a villain from the Superman comics who is a genius, and he's like a master of gadgetry and stuff like that. But he's also a guy that has dwarfism, and it will be interesting to see whether they keep that aspect on the show. I would say yes, as that could lead to some drama if they don't do that, which I think is best to avoid. But there hasn't been any cast news. But then again, there hasn't been like any cast news for Superman and Lois outside of the main people. So we'll have to wait and see what happens there. But yeah, guys, that's all to go over from this stuff from Superman and Lois. If you enjoyed the video, it would be awesome if you could drop a like on it to show support. Let me know in the comments section down below your various opinions on what we went over and everything like that. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe. As I said, Superman and Lois is tomorrow when this video goes out, so keep your eyes out for it, and I'll have my review out as soon as I can get it out after the episode ends. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Can't wait to see the show. But yeah, I'll catch you guys then. Goodbye.